Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into the world of Gautam Adani, the Indian billionaire businessman, chairman of the Adani Group. Our mission, really, is to get a handle on how he became so central to India's economic story and understand the vast reach of his company. It's often quite surprising. So, if you want a shortcut to being well informed on, well, a major global business figure, you're definitely in the right place. And honestly, the sheer breadth of the Adani Group's interests, it's quite something.
It really is. And what's fascinating, I think, isn't just that the projects are ambitious, though they certainly are. It's the scale
Mhm.
and how interconnected everything is. He's known, of course, for these huge investments in India's infrastructure, energy especially. But it's the way he's combined them that's, well, unique.
Yeah.
Creates a sort of economic engine.
An economic engine. That's a
Yeah.
good way to put it. So, not just like a random collection of businesses, it's strategic. Where do we even start trying to, unravel all that?
Well, a good place to start is often the foundation. Ports and logistics. The sources we looked at really emphasized that Adani didn't just buy ports. He sort of transformed them. Modern gateways, think about Mundra Port. It's not just one of India's biggest private ports. It's this massive high-tech hub built to handle all sorts of cargo. It really shows his long-term thinking about controlling these crucial trade points. It's about managing the arteries of India's global trade, fundamentally.
Right. And once you have a grip on trade, it just makes sense you'd want to power that whole system, doesn't it? Which I guess brings us to their huge energy investments, both traditional thermal power and that big push into renewables.
Exactly. And what's quite insightful there is this dual strategy. They are still a massive player in thermal power. It's still crucial for India's industrial growth right now. But at the same time, they've made these enormous commitments to renewables, really ambitious goals for things like green hydrogen, too. So it's a very integrated way of looking at the country's massive and changing energy needs.
Okay, so you've got trade covered, power generation. What's next if you're building this kind of national economic backbone? Seems logical it's digging into the ground, right? Mining, securing raw materials. Their mining ventures seem less about just, single mines and more about feeding their own infrastructure plans.
Yes, and if you connect the dots, the sources talk about Adani's pit-to-port model. This isn't just about digging up coal, for instance. It's about controlling that whole chain from the mine itself, using their own logistics network straight to their own power plants or their own ports. That kind of vertical integration, it gives them phenomenal control and efficiency over key resources.
Which leads us right into infrastructure development itself. Makes perfect sense. When you control raw materials, the ports, the power, well, building roads, railways, airports, the actual physical structure of a modern economy, it just follows, doesn't it? And the Adani Group is deeply involved in building these critical assets.
Absolutely. This is where you really see that ambition almost translating into, well, nation-building activities. These aren't small projects. They're huge undertakings. They need massive capital long-term vision, and they literally reshape India's landscape and how it connects.
And speaking of shaping landscapes, they're also pretty big in real estate, which I suppose isn't just building houses, right? It fits in with the industrial and infrastructure side, creating places for people near these hubs.
That's right. Their real estate developments often seem strategically placed, maybe near their big industrial sites or logistics centers.
Yeah.
It creates these sort of integrated ecosystems,
Hmm.
places for people to live and work, which just further cements their influence across the board.
Okay, and finally, there's a sector that really makes you stop and think about the strategic depth here: defense and aerospace. That seems like a step beyond just economic development. We're talking national capabilities now. What's the angle there?
Well, this particular involvement, it does raise questions, doesn't it,
Mhm.
about just how strategic these investments are. It suggests it's potentially about more than just profit, maybe about being a key player in areas vital for, well, national security, technological progress, the sheer range across these six core areas: ports, energy, mining, infrastructure, real estate, and now defense. It's just quite remarkable. It shows this really complex web of influence.
So, okay, pulling this together, what does this all mean for you, listening in, trying to make sense of global business?
I think the core insight is that Gautam Adani's huge role in shaping India's economy is really defined by how wide-ranging and interconnected the Adani Group's interests are across all these critical sectors. He's really been central, hasn't he, to India's recent economic development story.
Yes, and it's important to add the sources do mention he gets both praise, accolades for his vision, but also criticism, concerns about some business practices, environmental impacts. It's a complex picture, and it kind of leaves us with a big question to think about, doesn't it? What are the wider implications, the good and maybe the challenging, when one single group like Adani holds such widespread, such instrumental influence across so many fundamental parts of a nation's economy, from energy right through to defense? Definitely something worth mulling over as you watch how global economies evolve.